Make sure to rotate the wrist all the way across, right? No write-ups, just all positive documents, right? All right. So now we're gonna take our other hand, we're gonna reach for the stapler because we gotta staple all of those packets together for employee orientation. Right? Now you know what we're talking. You can take this back to work and you're like, it could be yoga therapeutic, awesome. And then last of all, give yourself just a great big hug or hand of applause. Just whatever you want to do. Clap, hug, whatever you feel comfortable with. Squeeze. All right. Does anybody feel better? Does anybody feel worse? Don't answer that, friends. Yeah, no, I'm just joking. So it really is cool to be here today. So my name is Dustin Dale, founder and CEO of Beyond the Horizon Consulting. Super short bio. I travel the country teaching leadership and keynoting about leadership, servant leadership. And in just a second, my awesome friend is going to introduce herself as we go into the first section. But it's really cool to be here today because Sarah and I came together about a year and a half ago, and you'll hear what she does. And it kind of sounds like the start of a joke. A mental health therapist and executive coach got together, right? If you heard that one, stop me. But we got together and we started coaching leaders, and we realized that a lot of leaders don't get the focus on the whole person. It's almost like one or the other. We got the professional us and we got the personal us. And sometimes we hear leave the personal you at home and just bring the professional you to work. Well, I failed for 10 years in my corporate retail doing that. So it's really awesome that we try to bring this message about the whole person leader and what you all can do to bring the whole person team that you lead each and every day inside the work so people can enjoy their work. And before I turn it over to Sarah, I want to give you a stat. And if you would indulge me, please write this stat down as a reminder. 31%. You can write that stat down real quick for me. 31%. Does anybody want to take a quick guess what that percent represents?
How many people have a mental health diagnosis?
I love that. I wish that, but not quite. So 31% is the US engagement score. The United States engagement score, 31%, was just released by Gallup last month. So Sarah and I are on a mission to try to reverse that number, to have more engagement in our workforce. And that's what we're going to take you through today. With no further ado, we could have an awesome round of applause for my friend Sarah.
Technical difficulties. Good afternoon, everyone. That's all. Good. Okay.
Just the clicker.
Perfect. Nope, it's not working. Here we go. All right, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Sarah Saunders. I am a licensed professional clinical counselor. I'm also an executive leadership coach and consultant. I'm also the founder of Purposeful Growth and Wellness, which is a mental health private practice where I lead and supervise my team. I'm also the founder of the Neurodivergence Discovery Clinic, which is a clinic that was founded and born out of my own experience. So I am a mom of 4 boys. If you see my eye twitching at any point, it's fine. I have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old. My 9-year-old has ADHD and my 5-year-old has autism. And so my husband and I, through the diagnosis process, it was really important for us to provide families something that gave them a clear roadmap that really supported the whole family system, because what we know is through our own experiences, we know how much the bookends of the day impact the way in which we show up. And so the Neuro Clinic was an opportunity to be able to provide families a clear roadmap of support pre, during, and post-diagnosis. And so the reason that Dustin and I are so passionate about this work is that how many parents do we have out there that raise their hands? Okay. So we know that some of our greatest leadership lessons actually are born out of parenting. Who can agree with that? So I don't know about you guys, but our mornings can be pretty crazy. And so the amount of co-regulating you have to do in the morning, the amount of problem solving and flexible thinking that you have to do, sometimes that, even before we get to work, is more is more taxing on us than actually doing the leadership work. And so I want you to think about, for a moment, I want you to think about a morning, an hour or two before you open your laptop, before you walked into your office. I really want you to think about, what did you have to manage before you even walked in to the office or open your laptop? I want you to think about, what did you have to absorb? What did you have to hold space for? And this is where it's important for us to talk through the hidden cost that goes into leadership. And so these are 3 stats that I wanted to share with you, specifically related to the hidden costs as leaders that we're constantly navigating. 76% of your workforce is experiencing some type of burnout. So I want you to really hear that. This is not a minority. This is a majority of your team, even of some of you, that can identify 1, if not more, signs of burnout. Many of the 76% are navigating something at home. And so I don't think we talk enough about what's happening during those bookends of the day. We oftentimes focus on productivity, on performance, but what people don't see is the person behind the position. And so there are many leaders that I work with, and research shows that things that are happening in their personal life, as much as we want to compartmentalize things, there's this, I feel it's a negative connotation with work-life balance, right? The reality is it's about counterbalance. There are times where we have to prioritize some things over others. And so there are people that are navigating recent diagnosis of their kids. They're struggling with the diagnosis themselves. There are people that have marital problems that they're going through. Some individuals are caretaking for one of their elderly parents. And so these are the invisible load. Imagine every day coming to work or having people come to work, and it's like an invisible backpack. Nobody sees it, but you feel it. And so we also want to be mindful of when employees feel unseen or unsupported, they're 3 times as likely to turn over. And so that invisible backpack that no one else knows, when they don't feel seen or supported or noticed, they're 3 times more likely to turn over. And then a big significant financial is $322 billion is lost globally every year to disengagement. This is that silent quitting that happens. And this cost isn't just financial. It's the person that you're working with. Maybe you can identify yourself in this, that is white knuckling, just trying everything that they need to do to get through the day. And nobody's paused to ask them what's going on underneath the surface. And so every number here has a human story behind it. So the invisible mental load that leaders are missing, this is what the statistics we showed is what is happening and the human story. And then this is actually what the story looks like. The weight of leadership doesn't show up on a job resume. It doesn't turn off at 5 p.m. It is with us day in and day out. And so as you can see here on the left side, we have performance pressure. We have decision fatigue. There are so many times that we are making micro decisions daily. How many of you have a cell phone? Right? We are scrolling. Our brains are constantly inundated with information. There's sensory input given all the time through the Teams messages, through emails that we have to get to, through calls. We're more connected than ever, but more disconnected to ourselves, which leads to extreme decision fatigue and burnout. And then leadership anxiety. I actually have the privilege to meet with a lot of leaders, and I get to hear their stories and understand what is happening with them day in and day out. And I hear a lot of the leadership anxiety, the questions. Nobody says it out loud, but we're constantly wondering, am I doing enough? Am I leading well? Are my team members getting what they need? And more times than not, these things we're internalizing. Leadership can be really lonely. Can anyone agree with that? Yeah. So we're internalizing these things, and yet externally, that invisible backpack, if we're in just the right sweet spot moment, it's like we take that backpack and we throw it. It's not always the specific event, the conversation, the frustration in that moment that leads us to maybe, kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's all of the invisibility that we're carrying that no one knows. And so then for your leaders, and going back to the 76% of people with burnout, there are so many people, like I had mentioned, that are going through things that we have no idea about. And the hard truth is that oftentimes leaders, they can't see what's going on with their team members. Sometimes they can't even identify what's happening within them because they're so depleted. There's a difference between capability and capacity. Each person in this room is capable. You are here for a reason. But when our capacity is limited, we're not able to show up the way that we want. And so when it comes to leading, we can often find ourselves unable to access self-awareness or even externally see what our team members are going through because we're depleted, we're on autopilot, or we just never learned how to lead people in that way. I'm going to steal this from Dustin because we talk about this often. Raise of hands, who went to school specifically for leadership? Does anyone have a leadership degree? I want everyone to look around for a moment. I see a couple, management, right? But here we are sitting here as leaders, expecting ourselves to know all of these things, and many of us were not taught. And so this is never to shame, blame, judge, or criticize, it's just to acknowledge. There's a skill deficit often. And when it comes to the people side, we're so focused on what we need to do performance-wise that we forget. Not that we mean to neglect, but if we aren't proactive and if we don't constantly remind ourselves of these things, we're going to get lost in the shuffle, and so are our team members. Who's heard this word, psychological safety? Raise your hands. Okay. So it's a little bit of a buzzword right now, if I'm being honest. This is a word that we hear so often, but yet oftentimes we don't have the right definition. And so it's important that we think about psychological safety. It's allowing people to speak up. It's allowing people to mess up. And it's allowing people to show up without fear. No fear of punishment, no fear of punitive action. It's allowing humans to show up as they are. And so what's interesting here, and as you look at the myths of psychological safety, oftentimes you feel as though good leadership is keeping the peace. It's protecting people's feelings. We don't want to create more conflict, but what we don't realize is that oftentimes the way in which we create these types of engagements is actually a trauma response. So when conflict hits, we will go into what's called fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Not sure how many people are familiar with the fawn state, but it is actually a people-pleasing tendency. And what's important to recognize is that all of these different trauma responses, they have served us at some point in our life. But what's really heartbreaking is that it's actually creating lack of psychological safety within our teams because we're actually telling them if we find ourselves in a people-pleasing tendency where we don't want to have that direct conversation. We don't want to have to, our capacity is limited, and so we don't have the energy to go in and do the hard work. We take it upon ourselves, we put more pressure on ourselves, and it's actually creating our team to start to think that you don't trust them, you don't trust their abilities, or maybe even that we can hide the hard things. And the biggest part of this is that it's not intentional. We're all doing the best that we can with the resources we have. And so the myth of psychological safety is, wait a second, I'm being kind. I'm being kind by helping take that off their load. I'm being kind by not ruffling people's feathers or, creating more of a inconvenience for someone to have this coaching moment. And so we have to really think about the goal. Anyone heard of Brene Brown? Okay. Anyone who wants to talk about Brene after this, I'll be out in the hall because I could go on and on. So for those of you that may not know, Brene Brown is kind of like the Oprah in the psychology space. She has an incredible TED Talk on vulnerability. So she's a vulnerability and shame researcher. And so she has a quote that I love, and I think it is so important in leadership, especially when we're talking about psychological safety. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And so the goal to have psychological safety is to have hard conversations because you care enough to want to see the other person grow. You want to see the other person succeed. You also want to make sure that mistakes become learning moments. That simple reframe, fail, first attempt, and learning, right? It's okay to fail. We want people to come to us. We want to be able to give ourselves grace in those moments as well. When leaders learn how to use vulnerability, how to use repair, how to communicate when things get difficult, that is where psychological safety is born. And what's interesting is for my parents out there, there's a lot of similarities that leadership and parenting have. And many parents never develop the skills because they weren't taught that. In fact, based on previous research and previous parenting strategies and the way in which they did things, we actually as leaders oftentimes have to unlearn unhealthy and unhelpful patterns in order to learn what it is that how we actually want to lead. Burnout doesn't announce itself. It disguises itself as high performance. I'm going to say that again. Burnout doesn't announce itself. It's not visible. It disguises itself in high performance. I know many of you, I don't want to assume, but are familiar with the language masking, right? We know a lot of kiddos that are neurodivergent individuals, adults, they mask. And this is exactly what happens in leadership when we're burnt out. And then the high performance piece, societally, people reward. And so we're burning out, we're doing all of the things, we're taking things off of people's plates, and yet that pressure continues to stay on us, and then we wear it like a badge of honor. And so I want you to recognize, if you notice the symptoms we had talked about in the previous slide, the anxiety, the decision fatigue, noticing that people aren't showing up performing to the level that you know they're capable at. It's an invitation, check engine light, to what are we missing underneath the hood? Where is their capacity and how can we check in with them? Because awareness is key. We can't change what we don't acknowledge. And my hope is that we can just start to have more grace with ourselves, more grace with the people that we're working with. I like to call it the MGI, most generous interpretation. And so when we're noticing that we're not performing to a level that we need to be, like I had said, check engine light, being able to check in instead of checking out in those moments. And so my hope really for you is to continue to have this conversation. I often say common sense, not common practice, right? When we're regulated, we're able to recognize, yeah, I know people have things going on, but when we're in those high stress moments, when it's May-December for me as a mom right now, with all of the things that are going on, the parties and the end of the school year and the sports, there's a lot that you guys are navigating, and we can't see those things when we're in it. And so before I transition over to Dustin, I just want to remind us that mental health is a leadership issue, a leadership crisis, not an HR issue. And the strongest leaders see the person behind the position, and you have the power. What a gift it is. What a privilege for all of us to be in leadership roles. And so we need to not only, we think, okay, I need to lead this initiative, I need to lead this person, but it actually starts with you. And so how are you leading yourself? How is your mental wellness, physical wellness, relational wellness, spiritual wellness? Because research shows that the most important relationship in your personal life, that shows the health of your leadership. And so I really want you guys to think about, how healthy am I relationally, and how healthy am I in my leadership? So now that you know what people are carrying, that's only half of it. The other half is what you do with it. And so Dustin's going to take you into what it actually looks like to lead with depth, to how trust gets built or broken, and then what you can do differently when you leave here in the next upcoming weeks. So thank you for your time, and here's Dustin.
Which, by the way, we have never been in a room where one person raises their hands and said, I went to school for leadership. So streak continues, which is good. So Sarah covered a lot. Like I said, when we first met, we didn't know about each other's bios until we started talking to each other. So she comes from that clinical therapy side, and she really is wonderful at what she does. She's an amazing mom and business owner. And we started talking, and I said, you know, I wish I would have had you back when I was running and leading stores for two corporate giants and have 400 people I was responsible for, because I was a wreck. Anybody relate? Have you ever been a wreck in your career before? I was there. I was working, 11 p.m. to 11 p.m. up at 4 a.m. just to catch up with emails, iPad, and, it sent me on a spiral. So when we got together, we really said, like, let's combine the two. So Sarah talked about really helping you focus on you. I want to take you on a journey for your team. And I know I've been blessed to know quite a bit about what not to do in leadership, because I failed quite a bit as a people leader. Have I ever failed before as a people leader? Can it make me feel a little okay that I wasn't the only one who failed, right? Guess what? Failure is the most beautiful thing. And so the old model taught us traditionally to criticize failure moments. And I'm not going to take you through industrial psychology. That's where I studied, how organizations work. And to modernize it, it's basically how you don't want to strangle your peer that you work with, is what industrial psychology teaches us to do, how to work together and play nice. I won't take you through that. But there are some things I want to share about the last 25 years. The last 25 years taught us the old model was we criticize when we fail. Right? So think about leaders you worked for, and I bet if we described a couple more attributes, you would start smiling because you could see their face in your head. Show of hands real quick. Can you see that person right away? Somebody who criticized you when you fell. There's a lot of scrunches looking up here, so we know we're on the right track. Well, the new model is teaching us that we got to address the whole person from a different perspective. And so how many of you are a people leader? You have people that report to you, or you have influence on people in the organization? There we go. Every hand, now we can all come in together as friends. People leadership in 2026 is very tough. It's very tough because of all of the stats that Sarah was talking about earlier. But there's a couple of things you can do with your team starting next week. When you get back, that's very easy. The first one is really teach them how to be coachable. Be coachable employees. be coachable contributors. But in order to teach them to be a coachable contributor, who has to be coachable first? We do. And that was one of the hardest lessons I didn't learn quick enough. Was I expected my team to take feedback, to hear feedback, to have performance reviews once a year and have to painfully sit across from me and listen to me. Looking back, I'm so sorry for those individuals, and give that feedback. But yet, as I was leading people, I really wasn't going out myself and being coachable. So here I was as a leader saying, go be coachable, but you can't help me to be coachable. And so many leaders struggle with that. So that's what the new model of leadership is teaching us. If you want to create an autonomous workforce, an autonomous agency, people who just show up and do what they know they should do, how they should do it, when they should do it, you teach them to be coachable. Because the faster people can learn to accept feedback in a positive, coachable manner, the faster the organization can move and a lot less friction. I'm gonna ask this next question. How many of you have had to been brought in on employee to peer issues? Drama, right? Majority of my job running a $150 million store was dealing with people issues. It had very little to do with operations. It was literally sitting down with people. And I thought over and over, there's got to be a better way to do this. Well, I didn't create coachable employees. Coachable employees learn to coach, not just up and down, but side to side. So I want you to reflect on your organization right now, the people you're leading, the responsibilities you're in charge of training. How often are we referring to, hey, are we being coachable today? Can we get some coaching today to help us? Are we providing coaching? So if you have influence on the executive leaders, any executives in the room for me, like directors or executive leadership? Here's what I'll tell you, because I mainly work with C-suite quite a bit. The best way to set the culture tone is to model coachability. It's the best thing you can do. And one of the ways you can do that is during orientation, if you have a part of it, is to show up and say, hey, day one, we want to be coachable leaders in our organization. We strive for that here. We want feedback. We want to hear it. We want positive criticism. Notice I said positive criticism. You got to set the boundaries, okay? We want positive criticism. And while we're doing that, we want to hold an expectation that we help you become coachable in the process so we can win together. I went through a lot of orientations in my career. Never once have I sat in an orientation that said that. So imagine how powerful that mindset then becomes with employees and ownership. That's the new model. That's what employees are wanting to attach to value. So teach them to be coachable. So again, this old model, we've seen that focus on metrics, right? Does anybody use corporate jargon in their meetings? Just quick show of hands. Anybody say the word KPIs? Right? Do we say circle back? Land the plane, right? This is just Dustin's opinion. Burn all corporate jargon. People don't understand it. I barely understood it. Talk to them as humans, right? Not everybody's going to understand KPIs, or we're going to land the plane, we're going to pin this, we're going to circle back to this, sunset it till next week. Just say, team, we're going to get to this because it ain't working. People relate to that much more. And relatability starts to build trust. So strengths and strengths and struggles builds a lot of character and a lot of trust. So how many of you were taught just focus on your weakness? Anybody taught that? Thankfully not. That's the way I was taught growing up in corporate retail. Every single one of my bosses, Dustin, don't worry about what you're good at. You got to focus on what you're bad at and develop those weaknesses. How many of you think somebody might feel super positive thinking about everything they're bad at? When you say it out loud, you're like, oh, goodness, okay, now that makes sense. That's what happened to me. I was just taught the old model, focus on what you're bad at. I'm like, all right, I'm sitting at my desk. I'm not very good at communication. I'm not very good at delegation, not very good at organization. Basically, anything that ends in shin, I'm not very good at, which is a long list. And so as I get to teach with leaders, focus on the natural them, the things that they are positively good at, and praise those. But don't be afraid to coach to the things they need to improve. And there's a big difference between criticize and coach. Right, so real fast, somebody yell out for me. I have a mic here. What is criticism? Anybody have a good quick definition? You look like you got one, Chris. Correctly. Right? Maybe a not so positive tone, right? Yeah, like, hey, why did you do that? You're like, why did you do that, right? Versus coaching would be, hey, what did you learn from that? See the subtle shift and difference of words? Going from why did you do that, or even help me understand can be a positive and a negative, depending on if you can control the facials. Like, help me understand. But just saying, hey, what'd you learn from that experience? My perspective is we didn't hit the objective. What did we learn? And that teaches them to be coachable. So that's not being afraid to talk about their struggles. And so you have to call that out. Where do your employees fight themselves in their work? A lot of you know your teams well, don't you? You know when they're not having a good day. And so a lot of leaders are afraid to sometimes address that at a deep level. They'll say that, like, hey, you don't seem like yourself today. That's a good start. That is a very good start. But if I really want to get into the struggles, one of the questions I ask is, hey, what's crushing your confidence right now? Because confidence is attached to performance or decrease of performance. If somebody has low confidence, they're not trusting in themselves or what they're doing. So great question. Hey, what's crushing your confidence today, friend? Where are you at? Where's the real you? So Sarah and I had a privilege to go out to San Diego and meet the CEO of WD-40. And one of the things he used to do in his meetings, when one of his leaders didn't show up, he would actually take them outside and do this super silly exercise. He would take them outside and start looking under cars. And he would have them search with him. And finally, the employee's like, what on earth are we doing, Gary? He's like, oh, we're looking for you. Because that wasn't you in there. That's not the you I love, know, and cherish. Where were you? Like, and super silly. And, take your own risk with what you do with that. But imagine if more leaders showed up and addressed people like that. Like, this isn't the real you. Where are you at? Let's find them. Let's bring them back. Let's get them to there. That's being able to talk about their struggles. And Sarah hit on the second one, the weight they carry. Right, so one of the great questions that you can ask from Sarah's presentation, how heavy is your backpack right now? Like, I'm not wearing a backpack. You're right, you're not. But you're probably carrying an invisible load, aren't you? And then it opens up the door for conversation. So you can take the whole leader approach, the mental health side, and incorporate it into your leadership development side with your teams, just all through asking the right questions. And so the last one that I want to draw attention to is the story underneath the missed deadline. This is a big one. We all have objectives, correct? Can we agree to that? We all have deadlines, right? How many of us have ever missed an objective or a deadline? Right? I won't ask how many of us purposely did that. I may have done that a time or two in my life just to show my boss something. Don't listen to me. I'm full of it. But I got to escape leadership life, so I get the joke. But missed deadlines. What's our first reaction when somebody fails us? What do we want to do? Show me real quick, just with your body language. What do you do right away? Exactly, right? I call them it's good, field goal. All right, people do that. I start yelling, it's good. They're like, what are you talking about? I don't know. You're like, field goal is good. So we react. But what if we stopped and said, I wonder what caused that? I wonder what happened. In fact, I'm going to give you a really, really powerful one. I wonder what they're feeling. So many of my leaders just destroyed me when I failed and missed the deadline. None of them came to me and said, Dustin, we're not going to talk about what you missed. What are you feeling right now? You know how much I would have begged for that? For a leader just to say, what are you feeling at one of the low points? Because you know when you're low. Nobody has to come along and tell you, hey, you missed that deadline. Most of us know. But imagine if we went to our teams when something big happened and it was a big miss. And we said, hey, I'm not here to talk about what didn't go right. What I'm here to talk about is, what are you feeling right now? What's going on? What can I help with? And if you don't want help, you want me to listen. So we have to get out of this mindset that we have to fix things as leaders. It's what we've been taught, right? Leaders fix things. It's not always true. Leaders of leaders' job is to coach leaders, to go coach the teams. But a lot of times in leadership, we get taught we got to manage our leaders. No, your job is to coach them so they can be great coaches to their teams. And so if you get in the habit of fixing things, you can never go home. Anybody relate to that before? Never being able to go home, right? Hey boss, hey boss, hey boss, hey boss, real quick. If I walk through the office, hey, real quick. Like I used to change my name badge to hey, real quick. Because it seems like that's all my name was to people. Hey, real quick, I got a quick question. There's no such thing as a quick question. Don't come to me with that. Tell me how many minutes you want. Can you want 30? Can you want, just be honest with me. So I know. But imagine if we just operated outside of all the traditional things we were taught about leadership, how much more we could connect with our people. And I want to give you this definition real quick. If you take nothing from me today, please take this away back to your organization. Leadership is leaving people better than when you found them. That's all leadership is just leave the person better than when you found them. They're in your care, so take care of them. Gary, CEO of WD-40, has a famous quote he loves to share that the Dalai Lama said, the purpose of life is to make people happy. If you can't make them happy, then at least don't hurt them in the process. That's leadership, friends. That's the whole person leadership. So we have to look at how we're talking, how we're coaching, what we're saying, what we're doing in those training meetings. Are we really talking about the hard conversations? Or like Sarah said, are we afraid to maybe address the hard truths? But the hard truths are what's creating the biggest friction. When we have leaders who don't get along inside organizations, how fast are they resolving their drama? Because the drama trickles down to the employees, does it not? Like we know when mom and dad are fighting or whoever's fighting up at the top, we know that. So we as leaders have to be very careful we don't let that spill down. But we can't do that if we're just focusing only on all those weaknesses we said earlier. We got to praise people and their strengths. We got to not be afraid to say what we're good at, what we're proud of. And all of that ties back to building trust with people. So everybody, real quick, yell for me, earning trust. All right, we'll try this again. Oh, my ears hurt. So everybody yell for me, earning trust. How many of you hate when a speaker asks you to do that real fast? Yeah, I sat in those seats too. I know, friends. I have fun with it, right? But earning trust. So here's a funny thing I had one time with a leader. Leader came into my store, brand new boss. I reported to. The first things that this leader ever said to me, the very first sentence, was, Dustin, my trust is already here. It's yours to keep. Think about that I'm telling you, the very first thing he said to me, not tell me about yourself. We'll get to that. Not what do you do here? Not how's the store. He said, Dustin, you already have my trust. It's yours to keep. How powerful is that to hear, especially from a leader? Like, so imagine if we just change that language, we can start to realize that trust doesn't have to be so hard. And in fact, we sometimes avoid conflict in leadership because we don't trust the outcome or we're unsure of what the outcome will be. And so our trust in that person starts to go down. Please stop me if you said, I just can't talk to that person. Have I ever said that before? Or I can't work with this person. We're too different. We don't get along. We see things. Basically, what we're saying in a nutshell is, I just don't trust this person. So if we started there, we can reverse engineer it and say, well, what does it take to build trust? Well, it's these 5 C's right here. Consistency. I'm going to give you a formula for culture. You ready for this? Culture is attitudes plus behaviors times consistency. That's the definition of culture. Attitudes plus behaviors times consistency. What's the attitudes of my team? Positive or negative? Like there's no middle. Like lukewarm isn't good. Are they positive or are they negative? What's the behaviors? So our attitudes drive what? Behaviors. If I'm positive, I'll probably do something good. If I'm negative, I'm going to be a pain in the butt to work with. And consistency. How often are they a pain in the butt to work with? Or how often are they awesome to work with? Does that make sense? So when you take culture and you put it into a formula, you can see that that's how you build trust, which is the last, consistency. So you have to be consistent. So many people are inconsistent. Hey, send me that report. I promise I'll get back to you. Weeks go by. Text messages don't get answered. I love this one in the email. Hey, just following up. Winky face. Really what I want to say is, hey, stop ignoring me. Right? But we can't say that, friends. It's not right. We're in HR too. Some of y'all behave, right? But that's what we want to say as people. Stop ignoring me. Give me the answer. Give me something. Tell me you don't want to do it, so I know where we stand. Be honest. Well, that's consistency. How many of you have mission, vision, values in your organization? I'm going to challenge you real quick, so bear with me. How many of us are truly consistent at the mission, vision, value? And when we're talking to people, hey, what's going on today? Awesome job, team. That absolutely aligns with our value of this, integrity. Or when we're coaching employees, hey, the reason we're having this coaching moment is this actually violates one of our core values here. So I want to make sure we correct and get back on path. So there's some people who don't even know their organization's core values. We'll just be real quick. They don't know the mission statement. They don't know the vision. And so if you don't know those things, then how can you lead somebody? See what I'm saying? And when we don't know those things, we don't have confidence, then it's hard for that person to trust us as their leader. So it goes to competence. You can be counted on to follow through and deliver on what you promise. Become the competent leader that says, hey, I know when this leader comes around, they are so aligned on the vision, mission, and the values, the core values. I know that is their standard. And so that creates the coachable employee because you don't waver, you're not inconsistent with it. And we all know the next one, care. We care about people. I've never met a leader who says, I purposely do not want to care about my team today. And typically those are on vacation. They need that break real quick because that care is getting hard. So just people want to know you care. They just want to know they matter, that they're seen, that they're valuable, like Sarah said. Candor. You tell hard truths with compassion. Notice I said compassion. So again, as I shared and Sarah shared, we coach with a lot of leaders. I mean, a lot. And I do sit across from leaders. And friends, I'm not making this up. This is what I say. Hey, because I care about you, we're going to have to shift the gear real quick. And I think we're avoiding something we need to address. And they'll say, well, what is that? Well, I don't think we're being honest with ourselves right now. Like, in fact, what I'm saying is, I think you're not seeing what you need to see right now. And I just want to know what you think about that. That's coaching with candor. I'm not sitting there saying, hey, you're wrong. Because as a coach, we're not there day to day, so we can see things clear. We remove emotion sometimes because we look at data. Because is it not true we get emotional in ourselves a little bit? Not a bad thing. But if we're having an argument, are we just arguing with emotions only? Or is there data that can tell a story about what happened? So as coaches, we help people look at the data. So how are you compassionately being candor with your team, with your leaders? And if you're an executive in this room or in those spots, one of the greatest things you could do is model that for your teams and say that out loud. Team, I want you to give me the hard feedback that you're afraid to tell me. Set that standard. And then be good to take care of that feedback when you get it. Sometimes we handle feedback like this. Or just, we're not careful with it. But when we get it, we got to take care of it. And we say, even if we don't agree with it, we have to accept it. And you can't, well, I don't necessarily agree with you right now. That's not what they're looking for. It's, hey, thank you. This gives me something to reflect on. Give me a couple days, or maybe just today, and I definitely want to sit down and learn more. Imagine that coaching. Imagine if more leaders did that. That's candor. And the last one is courage. You got to have courage to do these things. That's why courage is last. You can't pick and choose, friends. We can't say, today I'm going to be consistent, but tomorrow I'm going to have candor, but not be consistent. Or like, I'm going to have candor, but I'm going to do it without care. Courage takes the ability to do all of these in our leadership. So as you sit in this room today, you get to hear this and you're able to absorb this. But my challenge to you is, what are you going to do with this? Are we going to go back and coach our teams? Right? Like let's take what we hear, apply to what makes sense for our organization, because every organization is different. Some people have all rock stars on their team, and it's just really trying to get them to elevate to more rock stars. But some of us are leading struggling teams, and that's okay. Nobody's perfect. We're not meant to be. But it's like, what can you do with the information today that gets us back? And so the last piece before we wrap up is just the daily mindset practice. So we got to shift from what is wrong with their performance to what's happening with this person. I'll let you take a picture, yeah, please. So this is language we can do, just daily practices. They just need to be motivated. How many of you said that before? Any truth tellers in the room? I said that all the time. My boss come in, hey, what's going on with third shift? I don't know, boss, they're just not motivated enough. And my boss looked at me and said, why aren't they motivated enough? Insert mirror for me. It's because I wasn't motivated. I wasn't inspiring them. I wasn't coaching them. I wasn't talking to them. So we got to go from they just need to be motivated to what barrier am I not seeing? That coaching shift. That's how you build trust with people. We go from I give feedback when things go wrong to I'm always consistently giving feedback as an investment. Relationship equity. Have I heard those two terms before? Those two words put together? Relationship equity. So for those who haven't, when we have equity in something, we want the best for it, right? We want it to grow. We have equity in stock in a business, in a company. We want the best return from it. So relationship equity is, I want the best return from you because I'm going to deposit into you. That's relationship equity. And so if you don't have relationship equity, it's really hard to invest in people. It's really hard for people to feel like they can trust you because it's just transactional. I'm only going to come see you when I need you. And that's such a lonely feeling. And by the way, leaders in this room, that includes you too. You deserve that same relationship equity from your higher ups, whatever position you're in. And same thing with the executive directors and boards. If we just build relationship equity and deposit into each other with care and those 5 C's, we can do a lot of good in this world. So last one I want to go to there. I have an open door policy. I walk by a lot of leaders' office with closed doors 90% of the day. And I sit there and I do this. Because I want to be quick to criticize them. Like, hey, you're telling your team, come see you whenever you want, but they're not able to come to the door because the door's closed. What are we doing? So we got to move to, I actively walk through their door first. Think about that shift. I'm going to go to them. I'm going to go seek them. I'm going to go travel, tour their office. I'm going to go pop in. It shouldn't be a big surprise when the leader steps into the segment of the business. People get that like, ooh, the boss is here. Right? It should be like, hey, I want to share this with you real fast if you don't mind. Like people should want to be able to speak up about the cool things that's going on to all levels of leadership. So we have to change that narrative to have an open door to, I'm going to go to their door. And I'm going to keep their door open so they can be successful. That builds trust. Everything we're talking about, all of these practices, that's what trust is with people. And the last thing I'll tell you as we wrap up here before we want to do a quick Q&A with you all. You might have heard of Les Brown before, Les Brown, L.E.S. Brown. And it's okay if you haven't. He was an Ohio senator many years ago, but he was actually one of the top speakers in the 80s, back with Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn when they were doing their thing. Les Brown used to fill stadiums, and he would talk about trust, and he would say, you can't lean into trust. Either it's there or it's not. And he said, how many of you say you're going to try to make the meeting? Either you make it or you don't make it. You can't lean to the meeting like, hold on, folks, I'm coming. Give me, yep, just I'm on my way. Give me just a second. That's the same thing with trusting people. You can't say, hey, Jake, I want you to trust me. You have to, Jake, hey, I'm here for you, man. You trust me, okay? I got you. It's a different feeling. But we get so nervous sometimes as leaders, we're trying to do this. Trust me. Jump. I'll get you. Or the trust fall. Oh, darn, that's late. Right? So we laugh at this stuff, but yet our daily actions, this is what we do unintentionally. Because we've been taught an old model of leadership. And the day and age is changing with leadership. So these are just the quick 4 things I want you to do is that whole person leadership, it is not a soft skill. Anybody heard of soft skills before? I actually don't believe they exist. You know what they are? They're attitudes. If we were to name off soft skills, I want somebody who's positive, that's an attitude. Right? I want somebody who's dedicated, that's an attitude choice. I want somebody who can be coachable, that's an attitude choice. So when we use these soft skill terminology, not that it's wrong or bad, but really what we're talking about is the attitudes of people. What do we want to model? Which culture is what? Behaviors plus attitudes times consistency. So just take those away and then dual lens. Again, don't just look at their weakness and tell them go focus on their weakness, build up their strengths as well. And then the last one is great leaders ask better questions before they give what? And if you can't see that, the words answers. They ask better questions before they give answers. That's building trust with people. I trust you that you're going to ask really good questions before you judge me, criticize me, shame me, blame me, whatever it is you're going to do. They ask better questions. What went wrong? Where you at, friend? I don't see you today. How can I bring you with me? How can I lean more into you? Nope, you don't lean into them. You do what? You get with them right away through their door. So if you take these principles back next week, there's a lot we gave you. Just have time to reflect over the weekend and say, these are the ones I want to model right away with my team next week. Because time takes effort and effort takes time. And that cycle repeats. So if you really want a better team, you got to put in the effort. And if you're really going to put in the effort, it's going to take time. And you got to repeat that cycle. So we're going to go real fast through some Q&As. I know we have virtual friends. We have friends here in the room. But we will just want to take a moment to just hear questions we can answer about people, culture, leadership, mental health. And we got probably, Willie, about 5 minutes, do you think? Okay, awesome. So any questions here or from the chat? Yep, in the back. Oh, got a microphone.
What's your suggestion on repairing an unpsychologically safe work environment?
Want to take that? You sure? Okay. So from a leadership lens, I've coached leaders who have said, hey, I haven't done stewardship with my team. One of the first things I encourage a leader to do is sit with that team and have a very honest meeting and just say, hey, team, I have failed to receive feedback. I have failed to culturize, whatever the word, cultivate, thank you. Cultivate a safe place for us to think and share ideas. And I'm taking ownership today to say I've recognized in my leadership, I haven't done that. And I can't ask you to trust me today right away, but I hope you'll give me the grace to take the steps to rebuild that with you all. And I've had a leader do that, and it completely changed that room right away. It took some time, but about 6 months later, they were humming with their team. Great question, by the way.
I have a question for you. How do you know that that's not to put you on the spot, but what signals are happening to create this idea of there's not psychological safety?
The signals were really coming from the leader and not being supportive in their listening strategies and not implementing strategies that were suggested to make the entire office feel safe psychologically, and instead just stepping back and not doing anything. So it was challenging. And it's never been repaired, so I was just curious what a good repair looks like.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this is where we talk a lot about situational leadership, and these are real things that happen, and there's different levels of what this looks like. And my encouragement always is, if you are noticing something and it's not sitting well with your body, our bodies are wired in such an amazing way to let us know when something feels safe, when it doesn't. My one recommendation is having a direct conversation with that person. One of the things that we find ourselves doing as humans is we kind of, and there's this language of kind of like trauma bonding, right? Like, so when other people are having a similar experience, we feel safe talking to them about it, but that's actually creating a toxic culture in and of itself. And so being able to have that direct conversation with that leader, which I know can feel scary, but it's also our job to make sure, like Dustin has shared, and we're very passionate about having those hard conversations. So that would be.
More questions from room or chat? Everybody's ready to move, huh? Been sitting all day. I understand.
Our emails are on the handouts that we gave. Dustin and I will be hanging around if you guys want to talk at all. We so appreciate your guys' time. We have a day, you have another day tomorrow. But if there's anything you need, you can come up to us, email us. And
Just from my side, thank you. It truly is a privilege to serve you. We don't take this content lightly. So again, please email us if we can ever help. We'll stick around and be available to you. So you have a blessed rest of your day. Thank you.